Hey everyone, exciting news. We've officially launched the Paranoid Perspective Patreon. If you love what we do, unpacking conspiracies, chasing mysteries, and laughing through the weirdness, now you can support the show and get more of it.
So, for as little as $5 a month, you will get exclusive access and extra perks to the episode. Sarah, what do we get with tier one?
So, tier one is the Curious Minds, and you get a shout out at the end of every episode.
Next tier, this is what you guys really probably want ad free episodes. We don't need those pesky ads that you guys are getting on Spotify, Apple, whatever else. You will get all episodes ad free, along with what else, Sarah?
You'll also get it ahead of time. So before the episode releases for that week, it'll be available for you to watch or listen.
So, if you guys are interested, check in the show notes down below, or you can head to patreon.com/ the Paranoid Perspective Podcast. Welcome back to the Paranoid Perspective. I'm Jake.
And I'm Sarah.
Sarah, we're going to get into a sweet, sticky, horrible, disastrous, all around weird craziness today.
Yeah. It's very weird. Maybe one of the strangest accidents or disasters, I guess, in the US, probably.
It doesn't even sound real when you hear it.
No.
It's like,
Right.
wait, the what? We're doing
Right.
you guys held how many millions of gallons doing this for what? Anyway. So,
Yeah.
what are we
Yeah, it's
getting into
crazy.
today, Sarah?
So we're going to talk about Boston's Great Molasses Flood of 1919.
Okay.
So, yeah, it does sound like a joke, but it was actually a really bad disaster.
Well, I was thinking about that the other day, and like, it's annoying. Like, you have like waffles or, excuse me, edit that part out. You have like waffles or pancakes or something in the morning, and a little bit gets on your fucking fingers, and you're like, God damn it, this just ruined
Oh,
my whole
yeah.
fucking day. I could not imagine my street being overflown with fucking molasses.
Right. Yeah, or gets one spot on your clothing. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Whole day's ruined.
Yep. Yeah, definitely the whole day was ruined that day.
I think more than a whole day, but
Yeah, definitely more than a day, but so back then molasses was used to make like munitions
what?
by fermenting it. Yeah, to make ethanol used in things like dynamite or like smokeless powder.
So
That's why they wanted so much of it.
I see. It wasn't just for pancakes and sweet treats, it was for killing.
Right. Yes. Yeah,
No.
cuz World War II
Yeah, I know.
was going on, so or one. World War
Yeah, World
One.
One.
I'm not totally an idiot, but
No,
it was
because that
World War One.
was it 1919.
Yeah.
I thought it was over by then.
No, it was over by then, but they built this tank before that.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
yeah, they built it like right at the start of the war, so.
Mm.
But yeah, I did not know molasses was made to make ethanol, so that's kind of crazy. But I guess molasses, it's from sugar cane and it's crushed to remove the juice, and then you boil that to extract the sugar. So the remaining syrup, after the sugar's crystallized, that's called first molasses, which is this best variety. I didn't know there was multiple varieties either. But then the leftover syrup is boiled again, like it's boiled again to make more sugar. And then is called second molasses, which is less sweet and cheaper. And then it's boiled a third time, and then that's called blackstrap molasses, which is like really gross. And that's what's used to make like industrial alcohol.
I
So,
see. So it's in pure form American capitalism. We're going to do this as much as we possibly can until we have the worst product available, and then we're going to find something to use that worst product available with.
yep. So this company, U.S. Industrial Alcohol, was looking for a place to erect a tank in Boston to make munitions. So they were looking like literally at the start of the war, like 1914,
Mm-hmm.
to figure out where to put this because they had a factory in Cambridge and they already had a tank in Baltimore and New York. So then they wanted one in Boston to send to Cambridge. So they looked at the north end because it was right on the water, like the harbor's right there. and it had an elevated railway at that time, so it'd be easy transport to Cambridge as well.
Mhm.
And like steamers could come in from Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the West Indies and like offload it into the tank easily and then fill up the
Right.
rail cars and stuff. So, and also the North End at that time was kind of like Little Italy, like it was becoming Little Italy with a lot of Italian immigrants. And there was like a lot of Irish at first, but then they kind of started moving out of that area. So by then, like when they were looking at building the tank there, it was mostly Italians, but there was kind of different groups of people. And people said the density of that place, like of the North End, was more than Calcutta at that
Holy
time.
shit.
Yeah, because I guess they just had tenements up and everything. So
Mm,
it was just like a lot of people, and all these people are pretty poor. Like they don't really have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of political influence. So they kind of think that was one of the reasons the company was looking there as well. Because then people couldn't complain or like get it like stopped or anything. But there's also like a lot industry there. Like it makes sense because it's kind of like on Commercial Street was the elevated railway. So on one side of it was the industrial area, and then the other side of it was the tenements.
okay.
So.
Well, I mean, the Northeast in general has always been a high traffic area with a high density
Hmm.
population since the start of the nation. I mean, even in the colonies when
Oh
we
yeah.
were still under British rule, I mean, it's just easy ports and easy ways to get in and immigrate. So why not have that many people? There's always going to be a
Right.
shit ton of people.
Yeah. Yeah, and at that time, since it was mostly Italians by then, they weren't that interested in politics and they didn't have like any lobbying or really like but like they weren't citizens, so they didn't have any voting rights and stuff, so it was just like they can't really stop it either if
Yeah.
this like it would never go up at a richer area or whatever. But
Well, of course not. Can't let the where the peasants work be where we keep all of our stuff. So that's where we got to keep it.
yeah, and there were already like some rules in different neighborhoods of constructing this kind of thing.
Mm.
Oh. So it ended up being constructed in December 1915 by Purity Distilling Company, which the parent company was U.S. Industrial Alcohol. So it was 50 feet tall, 90 feet in diameter, 240 feet circumference, and it could hold more than 2 million gallons of molasses.
Holy shit.
Yeah, do you want to see some pictures
Let's
from
see
back
some
then?
pictures. I'm trying to sit here, like, I understand, this is in the age of, especially like a wartime economy, like we're gonna do bigger, better things, but that seems a
Yeah,
lot of ridiculous.
it was crazy. Yeah, look at how that
Holy
tank's like.
shit.
'Cause that's, like, the elevated railway is there, and
Uh-huh.
it's still, like, this other picture is from the railway point of view, so it's still, like, probably at least another story above the elevated railway.
Yeah. Well, you said
So, yeah.
I mean, it's 5 stories, right? Like you said?
Yeah, it's 5
Yeah,
stories,
I
it's
mean,
50
that's
feet.
fucking massive,
So,
man.
it's taller than any building that they
Right.
had at that
Any
time,
building
yeah.
around, and the only thing that comes close is the elevated railway. Like,
Right,
and like you said, you probably have a story and a half, maybe 2, that's
right, yeah.
it's still higher than?
It's crazy. I did not know it was that tall. Yeah, um but the construction of the tank was plagued with setbacks, of course.
Well, something
Never
that
could go
big, I can
smoothly.
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, so first they had to get a permit to lease the land where they wanted to put it there, and
Okay,
that was
yeah.
delayed several months, like into the fall of 1915. Um, then after that, the construction of the tank was delayed. Someone like fell off of it while they were building it and died because it was like 40 feet.
Yeah, OSHA
And
wasn't around then either, so they were just probably, doing whatever the fuck they wanted to do.
yeah, so that delayed, and then there were, like, fall storms as well, like, that delayed it more, and the company was like, "This tank has to be built before the end of 1915," because they already had put in an order from, like, Cuba to send a steamer full of molasses,
So we were a
like,
little
by the 31st or
yeah,
something.
we were a little hubris and we're like, "Yep, go ahead and sign the contract. Let's fucking get it because it's gonna be done."
Yeah, because the war is going on and Europe wants this stuff, so we need to capitalize on it, yep.
Mhm.
So the tank ended up being done on December 29th.
Shit. So
So,
like right in the nick of time.
yeah. But the construction crew also was like, this tank needs to be tested for leaks. So they recommended like fill the whole thing with water to see if any leaks to like shore it up and stuff. And the guy in charge of it, like the financial guy in charge of it, was like, no, we don't have time for that because they're coming in like 2 days. Like it'll take weeks to fill this up with water.
Nah, it'll buff out.
Yeah. So he ended up only filling it with 6 inches of water
Yeah, yeah. You know.
because that was like to the first seam, I guess.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that, and then he said it's good to go because it didn't leak. So even though he's not an engineer or
Yeah.
anything,
Well,
yeah,
traditionally, people that don't do the job usually make decisions about how to do said job. So, I mean, prime example right there. Like I said, don't
right.
worry about it. It'll buff out. The first seams don't bust, so what would make you think the other ones would? It's
Right,
not
why
like
would
we
it?
only have 5 stories of, how long are these seams? Probably once every, I don't know, I'd say a couple feet. So,
Yeah.
hundreds of failing points, thousands of failing points per story,
Yeah.
No, fuck it. Let's
Yeah.
just send it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know this for sure. I'm assuming since it's molasses is very very thick, the density
Mhm.
difference between that and water would probably come
Yeah.
into factor there.
Yeah,
So
it's very different. I guess molasses, I also didn't know this. It's a non-Newtonian fluid.
yeah, yeah. So like if you like hit it
So,
really hard, it won't like you won't sink into or it won't.
well, it's like the opposite of that though. Like, I don't know, I saw a YouTube video about it. I can like link it, but it's like the air pressure will make it like flow faster than you would think or something.
Oh, I see, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So that'll come into play. But yeah, this guy was named Arthur P. Gell. So remember him because he comes up like,
Arthur P. Douche. God damn.
yeah. Yeah, and he was also like, I guess he was put in charge of this because the company was like, oh, once you do this successfully, then we'll move you to like the headquarters in New York to be like the VP or whatever
So
of
he had something
the
to
finance.
prove.
Yeah, so he's like, oh, this has to go without a hitch and everything and stuff. So yeah. So yeah, the first time it was filled, people said it groaned and sounded like it would collapse right then and almost immediately started to leak as
Hmm.
well.
Oh, you don't say. It's like we
So
didn't
yeah,
test it.
right. Yeah, so a lot of people in the neighborhood were already a little worried about it, but they weren't going to listen to those people. And also there was a worker for the like USIA company. His name was Isaac Gonzalez, but he like tried to warn Gel and there was another guy like some Mr. White, I guess. I don't remember his first name, but he tried to warn them a lot of like this is going to fail like at any moment, basically. Like over the years he said that. So he even brought in like rusty shards of steel that were coming off from the inside of the tank into the office to be like,
Okay.
we need to do something about this. But the response was like, the tank still stands. So I don't know what you want me to do.
Do you look out the window right now? Do you see any problem? No, it's right there. It's fine. We're not going to worry about this. We're not going to It's not a problem till it's a problem.
Right. Yeah, and then he was told if he said it again he'd be fired. So, and he's like I need this job obviously, but he would sleep in the office by the tank sometimes to like he thought like if it started to fail he could like warn people in time or something like if he
What?
was right there. I don't know. He just thought like he needed to be like he was so anxious about it. He had to be on site to be like, if I see it go, I need to tell everyone and save people or something. That wouldn't have worked, but
Yeah. He had
and he
drowned in a
often had
sweet sticky mess of
right.
molasses.
Yeah. And he often like had nightmares of it failing, so he'd like have to walk to the tank in the middle of the night to just make sure it was still standing.
Just hit
Like
it a
his
few
wife
times.
was pissed.
Oh, I
Yeah.
bet. Where are you going out at night? Going to go meet your, mistress or whatever. It's like, no, honey, I got to go check on the 2 million
Yeah, I have to
gallon
make sure
molasses.
the right. As if he can do anything, but it just made him feel better. But yeah, once the bosses found out he was like sleeping there too, they were like, "No, you will be fired if you are seen there again, like sleeping there or anything." So, he had started working February 9th because it was already full. So that was like 2 months since it, and he just kept saying, it's gonna fail. So Hopefully they listened, but it's also it leaked so much that kids like knew to go to the tank to like fill up pails of molasses because they're like, oh, free molasses. Let's like parents would send their kids to be like, go fill up from the tank
That was a different
of
time.
this molasses because it was leaking so much, like just rivers of and yeah. So
I wonder though, like they had to have been losing money in some way, shape, or form with it leaking that much. You know what I mean? Like
right, yeah,
you would think at least from like if we're just a greedy corporation that wants to make sure we get this done and we get to contribute to the war and make a lot of money off of it, you would think it's like, well, no, we need to make sure our product is we get to keep as much of it as possible and
right. Well,
not have the neighborhood kids, you know, in droves coming out and filling up gallons of
right.
molasses and taking it away from us.
Well, but well, they ended up later they put up a fence, so it didn't
I'm
get
sure that stopped a lot of
as
people.
to it as much. But it was still leaking, so I don't know. They because to fix it all, they'd have to empty the whole thing, and that'd be months, maybe. I don't know. They can't be down for months.
Can't be bothered to worry about
How
this.
much, right? How much more money would they lose if they shut
Oh,
down for a couple months?
I'm positive that was a meeting that was had multiple times.
Yeah. Um, but there was also, I guess, some what is it, anarchist activity also going on at this time. So some people worried they would blow up the tank too. I guess that was like a time I don't really know American history well at that time, but I guess a lot of anti-war, like the World War and like just anarchists in general, they were like bombing different facilities that were part of like helping the war effort.
Hmm.
So, like a USIA facility in Brooklyn in 1916, there was a bomb at one of their molasses tanks because a letter had been sent to the police, like warning or, you know, whatever, taunting them about it. And they did find a bomb at one of the tanks that had a faulty fuse. So it didn't actually go off. But like they were going to blow up that molasses tank. And also 1916, because that was like June, and then December 1916, there was a police station that close to the Boston tank. It was on Salutation Street, so I think like a couple blocks away. But
Okay.
it was blown up by like 20 sticks of dynamite. This
Holy
police
shit.
station. Yeah. And I guess it had been placed in a basement cell that was like under the sleeping quarters of police, but like luckily it blew outward and not like upward
Oh,
where
okay.
some of the police were. And like no one was walking nearby because it was pretty early morning. So no one was actually injured from that, I guess. But that
How
was
have we,
close to the
how
Boston
have I
tank.
never heard of this?
Yeah, I don't know. Because I guess it was kind of nationwide too. Well, at
I
least
would
like,
I would assume it would be because I mean, like,
yeah.
I think we get kind of tunnel vision in the generation that you're currently in of like this is the only time this has ever happened sort of like mentality. But clearly this has been going on since the dawn of the country. So that's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, I didn't realize all of that, but
We need to have
and
like a full American history like
this,
series or
yeah,
something. The
this is
shit
the
they don't
American
teach you in
education.
school.
Yeah, right. Yeah, especially Indiana
Right.
teach you this stuff. But I guess a lot of the anarchists too, like the big ones, were Italian as well. So
Okay.
then they started worrying about the tank being in the North End with the Italian immigrants being angry and everything. So they did put up a fence also because of that, because they thought, they would go and blow up this tank. So there was a fence put up. People still like somehow would go in, like kids and stuff, to get the molasses for like the pails and stuff. So it didn't really stop that, um but yeah, so then the guy that always transported like the steamer ship from Cuba to the Boston tank, his name was Frank Van Gelder. And he had been like on ships for like 30 years, like driving them, not driving them, I guess, captaining them,
Floating them.
whatever it's called. Yeah, floating the ships from Cuba and Puerto Rico and West Indies to, he did the Baltimore, New York, and Boston. So he's familiar with the other tanks too. And he said the Boston tank made him like queasy in no way that he had ever been before because of the sounds and everything. So he was like, he always was like, I want to do this as quickly as possible and get out of Boston because it freaked him out. And he said that in 1917, so 2 years before.
Here's the thing,
Oh,
man. Like, I understand that building was like building codes and stuff like that. A lot of that was not like really a thing in, the early, you know, 20th century. But I mean, you got to think if people are like experienced people are concerned about the sound that this
right.
fucking metal monstrosity is just creaking all the time,
Yeah,
man, you would think somebody would be like, you know what? Maybe we do need to take a step back and take a look at this.
right. You would think so. And it should have been Arthur P. Jell that
Yep.
told,
Fucking
because he
douchebag.
was in charge of that location. Yeah. And he didn't see any problem with it. I mean, people said it like groaned like it was alive, like all the
Ah,
time.
fuck that.
Oh, yeah. So then also there were, because in the area, like right at the harbor was a fire station, I guess, like fire engine 31. So even the firefighters there that are stationed there and like other workers that are at the yard and stuff, like the industrial yard, like all of them complained about the sound as well and the leaking because they're like, this is kind of crazy. And they complained so much about it that in August 1918, they painted the tank from gray to brown. So you cannot see the leaks as much. So you can't complain as much.
Out of sight, out of mind. You're not gonna know.
Yeah,
My
right.
God.
So that's what they did to fix it instead. And I guess Isaac Gonzalez, the worker guy, he had said too when he came at night, sometimes he would like, I mean, he'd throw sand on the puddles so it wouldn't like spread so much, hopefully. And he would also open like the pressure valve and like pour some of the molasses out of the tank into the harbor, like sometimes at night, which he knew obviously he would get in trouble if they ever found out. But he was worried about like the pressure building up as well inside of it because of the gases and stuff. So he would do that sometimes too. But after they painted it brown, he ended up quitting because he's like, I can't do this anymore. And he joined the military. And he ended up being in Columbus because, like, right after he joined the military, the war ended pretty much
Yeah,
before
I
he
was
could
gonna
ever be
say.
shipped. Yeah. So he ended up being in Columbus. So at least he wasn't there, though, when it collapsed because, yeah. And it did seem like they caulked all the seams maybe once a year, I guess.
Well,
Like they would hire
we're doing our
someone.
we're doing our due diligence.
Right. Yeah. So they recaulked all the seams in December 1918 because they were getting a big delivery in January. Because like the war had ended, so they're trying to restructure what they were going to do, and then prohibition was
Yeah.
passed. So they only had until 1920. So they were going to get this big shipment in January, make all this like rum out of it and sell all of it like in the first quarter to like the bars and stuff that weren't going to have it later. So that was their big plan to be relevant still, I guess.
How much it was foiled by negligence.
Yeah. Yeah, so on Sunday, January 12th, 1919, Frank Van Gelder arrived to drop off his molasses. And I guess it was like 2 degrees Fahrenheit when he was there, like so cold. And then when he started unloading, he actually started unloading at 11:20 a.m. and then it got finished on Monday the next day at like 10:40 a.m. So it was pretty fast actually. Because
Yeah.
he said it could take like up to a week depending on how. He said molasses had a mind of its own. Because sometimes it would be like warm enough, but it wouldn't flow fast, and then other times you'd think it wouldn't flow fast, and it did. So it was magic. But he got out of there.
Or it's the fucking blob.
Yeah, it is. It's like the blob. But yeah, he left like within 24 hours of dropping it off, so that was good for him because he was like, we're getting the fuck out of here. And obviously could hear groaning, but that was normal. And what people like didn't know though was when cold molasses meets warm molasses from the ship, because the ship it would stay warm because they'd go on the Gulf Stream mostly, so it'd
Mm.
still be warm enough. So when that happens, it kind of triggers the fermentation process more when it's like warming up from the cold molasses, so that produces gas. And with that delivery, the tank was near capacity at 2.3 million gallons.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So there wasn't really a much area for the gas to go. And I guess also they filled it up because I was always imagining they filled up from the top down, but they filled up from the bottom up. So, like, the warm molasses is pushing the cold up, and then that's creating gas in the middle.
I see. I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, because it can't get through the cold
Mhm.
molasses to get up
Too
from the
thick.
tops. Yeah. So, I guess at that time, the molasses was 48 feet tall in the tank. Well, 48 feet and 9 inches tall. Sorry.
Was, damn near 5 stories, the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, and it weighed 26 million pounds at
Oh,
that point.
well, just a meager 26,000,000, no big deal.
Yeah, and, you know, since Isaac had left, no one thought of opening the valve or anything to let go out of this gas. So 2 days after the shipment, the temperature went from 2 degrees to 40 degrees.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So it's like people do say because of this temperature shift too, maybe that caused more gases to even build up and
I
stuff.
sure.
And because it was such a nice day for that time of year, everyone was outside also enjoying the day. Wednesday, January 15th, 1919 at 12:41 p.m., it burst and the wave happened.
Not just a little leak.
No. Yeah, the whole thing, it was total failure. Some people said that it was as high as 25 feet, the wave.
The wave of molasses?
Yeah, because it was 50 feet tall, but then it went all
No, no, I know.
directions.
Yeah, that's wild.
But people are saying at the tallest it was 25 feet, and it was 160 feet wide because it went like everywhere. And I guess it reached 35 miles per hour.
So, you you have a 25 first of all, like, anything hitting you at 20 or 35 miles an hour is terrifying, even if
Right.
it's, like, something small. But to see, like, possible two-story brown mass of liquid
Yeah.
just surging at you, dude, I'm
Right. Yeah, and you people can't run that fast. By the time
no,
you see it, it's too late. Like
yeah,
you're
you're
yeah,
fucked.
right. Yeah, I did find, I don't know if you want to see this. I found like a little map that's interactive of where the molasses
Yeah,
went.
yeah,
I
let's see
guess
it.
just on the map. Yeah. Do my screen again. Sorry, listeners. This one. Okay. Yeah, so this a circular blue is the tank.
Okay.
So then it'll show you that's where it all went. So
Holy fuck.
yeah, it was only stopped. I mean, it hit all these tenements too and stuff, but it was
Mhm.
stopped by the hill. That's Cops Hill, I guess, is there. Or it would have, if it was downhill, it would have
Yeah.
gone. Yeah, but thankfully it was the hills there, so it was stopped from that.
That almost
But yeah,
looks
I went
that
pretty far.
that almost reminds me of, like, watching those, like, animated, like, nuclear explosions, like, the tank's the epicenter, and then
Yeah,
everything is just, like, ballooning out from like, Jesus.
right. Yeah, so we can get into all the witness testimony and kind of what happened to people that were there.
Yeah, dude, I can't even imagine like, because
I
like you
know.
said, everybody's outside, everybody's having a great time, and like I said, it's inconvenient when you get it on your fucking fingers or your t-shirt. I couldn't imagine being, like, encased by this shit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it was right around lunch, like 12:41, so yeah, I guess actually the other guy, Mr. White, he was on the premises, but he ended up meeting his wife away for lunch.
How
So he
convenient.
wasn't there when it happened. Yeah. But yeah, witnesses described hearing, they said it was like a machine gun followed by a freight train. So people are saying like all the rivets like popped out and
Yeah,
then just the rush of
I
molasses.
was gonna say it probably the zipper part was probably like those seams and those rivets, like, busting all at once, or not all
Yeah.
at once, but, in sequence with each other.
Yeah. And there was, because the tank just kind of, fell apart. So there was like a 1-ton piece of the tank that sliced through a column of the elevated railway.
Mhm.
So then that collapsed as well, which was crazy because like right before it collapsed, a part of like the passenger train had just gone by.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it could have hit them, but because the driver of that train said like he just saw like the molasses just come and like it just got dark, he said. But it was like literally right after that train had gone by. So that was crazy. And I guess, oh, his name was Albert Lehman. I did write it down. So he saw that and he wasn't sure what happened, but I guess then he like ran to the trackside guard shack to tell them to stop like another train from coming from the southbound way. And then he ended up climbing onto the other tracks from where it had collapsed and ran on the track down the other way for the other train that was northbound to tell
Oh, to
them
stop.
the,
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess he stood there and just had his hands up and
Yeah, that'll
told them,
stop 'em.
like, the track's down.
Yeah.
I mean, they did end up stopping him because they couldn't hear him, but they could see that he was there. So he did end up stopping that like right before, because where it had collapsed was kind of where a turn was, so they couldn't
Oh, I
see.
see. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So he saved those people from falling off of this track. And a lot of the buildings immediately by the train or the tank were made of wood. So these were just totally demolished, like into
Well, I was
nothing.
gonna say the sheer just weight of water is intense in like tsunamis. I cannot imagine something like this where it's extremely more dense than water, just plowing into
Yeah,
everything.
right. Yeah, and with the police station nearby, there was actually a police officer like on his normal walk, I guess, around, and he saw the tank collapse, but he was like far enough away that he wasn't in danger. But he was like already on like a police box phone, like giving his update when it happened. So he just like immediately was like, everyone, come here. Every single
Right.
person, like nurse, anyone. You all
Everybody.
have to come
Lottie
here. Yeah.
dottie, everybody.
So that was good. It was like just happened to be right when he was on the phone already. His name was Frank McManus.
That's a very Boston name.
Yeah. Yeah, and he described it as just what?
Everybody get in the car. Gotta get over here to the molasses factory.
Right. I don't know what happened, but I don't have a Boston accent. You I'm not gonna try. But yeah, he said he just saw it. He said it looked like it just disintegrated in front of him, the
Yeah, I'm
tank and
sure.
stuff. Yeah. And he said it was a bleeding, like the sound of a wail of a wounded beast. That's what he heard. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that. I'm not
Yeah.
doing.
So Martin Clougherty, sorry if I don't say any last names correctly, but he was a bar owner nearby and his house was right by the tank. Like he had a house, but it was like kind of with the tenements and stuff, and it was wood. So he was actually saving up money to move his family because he lived with his sister, his mom, and he had a brother who like was mentally disabled. So he was like 30, but mentally he was like a child still. So they all lived together, and he had just saved up enough money to like move out of the North End because he didn't want to live there anymore with all the industrial stuff. And actually, he had gotten home around like 4 a.m. before it happened because he was the bar owner or whatever. So he came in late. So his sister Teresa, he asked her to wake him up at noon so he could go meet with the lawyer at 1:30 to talk about selling the house and everything. So she actually ended up waking up a little later. So she was in his room when the tank collapsed, and they were on the third floor. So that was good. But he remembered just her turning away, and then she just yelled, like, something awful has happened to the tank. And then just they were covered in molasses, like on the third floor. Like, because then he said just he heard her shout that, and then it was just black.
What the
And
fuck?
yeah. And he said, like, he didn't know what happened at first, but then he could taste molasses.
I can't
And he
see,
said
but
his,
whatever this is very tasty and sweet.
yeah. Yeah, he said his whole house was swept off the foundations
Oh
and
yeah.
beaten against the girders of the elevated train. So he ended up surviving. He like climbed back on his bed frame somehow and was like using it as a boat, basically. And he saw a hand, like, stick out of the molasses, and he grabbed that hand and pulled it up, and that was his sister, so he put her on the bed as well. So he saved her, and then, after it happened, because this only took, like, probably 2 minutes
Right.
for but it was yeah, so then he looked for his brother, Steven, but his they found out his mother or their mom, she was 65 years old. She had been picked up and thrown across the street and then, like, crushed by a part of the roof. So she
Jesus
had died, like,
Christ.
instantly. Yeah, and his brother, Steven, had survived initially, but because of, like, his mental challenges, he, like, couldn't deal with the trauma. Like, he became more anxious and thinking like, he would yell, like, "The wave's coming," or "I'm getting crushed,"
Mhm.
or, like so he ended up dying a year later after too. But then I guess there was a diner on Commercial Street, like, across from the wharf. So another witness, Robert Barnett, he was eating lunch with his family, like, his wife, and I think they had 2 kids, and he said they just heard a rumble, and they thought it was the train at first, like, elevated train.
Sure, yeah.
And then he said he heard, like, a swish, like a wind. So then he was like, I don't think that's the train." And then he just said it became dark, and he looked out the window, and he just saw, like, a great black wave, like so, like, he grabbed his wife and kids, and they, like, ran to the front door, but by then, the, stairs leading up to the diner were already covered in molasses, and that was the only exit. So they ended up actually being able to get onto the roof of
Oh, okay.
that. So they survived, but they saw, like, the whole neighborhood just get covered with this and all the destruction from the roof. So and, I mean, there were a lot of witnesses. A freight agent, I guess, at the Boston and Worcester Street Railway Company, his name was H.M. Dorley, and he was working in a shed, he said, like, 15 feet from the tank, and he heard a massive crack, and the ground shook. And then he said broken parts of the tank, like, literally missed the shed that he was in by, like, inches.
See,
So somehow he survived.
that's the more terrifying thing to me. It's like, yes, the molasses, the initial, I think once it started to spread out, like, yeah, you were gonna get, like, stuck, but you weren't gonna die. But
Right.
it's those giant pieces of this fucking tank that were just interweaved between this that weighing, tons and just hitting everything. That is yeah, I
Yeah.
would
I mean, a lot of people did get stuck and die too, though, because of the
I
way
believe
it
it. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah. Yeah, he said, like, he saw the tank strike houses and they crumpled like eggs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, like you said, most of this is, wooden material that, these houses are built out of, so makes sense.
Yeah, and this other guy, B.E. Kingsley, was also a worker at the Bay State Railway, and he was, like, equally as close to the tank, and he said, like, where there was a tank, there was no longer a tank, is how he described it.
It
Just,
was there, then
there
it
was
was
a
gone.
tank. Yeah. And instead was a giant wave of molasses. And he said he ran to the outer office and shouted a warning and was trying to run for the exit to like tell the clerks and everything too. But obviously by then it was too late and like all of them got stuck in that building. And he said everything was just like tossed around and like the whole
Yeah.
building was probably picked up and everything. But I guess he survived. I'm not sure about his other coworkers, but and, they also talked about this guy, Anthony Scarsazo, was swept away. I think it was more of a kid, like a teenager or something,
Oh,
but, like,
okay.
it gets in your nose and your throat and everything, and they said first responders actually, like, triaged him as dead first because his airways were so blocked, but then his family found him at a makeshift morgue, and, like, they pulled back the sheet to identify him, and he opened his eyes and was, like, alive.
Woo, that scared the shit out of me. God damn it.
Yeah.
Well,
But I
I
mean, good for him
yeah,
'cause
yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying
but
it
yeah,
wouldn't be.
that would be crazy.
See, that's the thing, like, at least in water, I feel like you have a little bit of a chance, as far as the swimming aspect, or even if you do swallow some water and inhale some water, like, yeah, you're gonna be fucked up, but, like, dude, that shit is so thick. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know how you would get that out of, like, your respiratory system.
right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess they did somehow, but for some people. And then Antonio and Maria d'Estacia, they were both 10 years old or around 10. They were
Hmm.
kids that their father sent them to the wharf to pick up firewood, I guess. So, and their friend Pasquale Iantasca, I guess that's how I'm gonna say Pasquale. Pasqualino, that's what they called him. He was also 10, but he was also with them, and they, well, Antonio's the only one that survived, but he remembered his sister being reprimanded by two workers for like playing near the docks.
Mm,
Antonio was crouched behind the tank watching what was happening, and Pasquale was near Maria, and that's when the tank, like, he just remembered seeing the workers' faces because they were facing the tank and being
yeah,
like, shit.
fuck. They were right.
Yeah, right. And Maria was standing like directly in the path of the wave at first, so like he just saw her like disappear and like Pasquale
Yeah.
just disappeared. And I guess the Antonio, he just had a cracked skull. Like he survived.
Yeah,
He had
no
a
big deal.
cracked skull and like couple ribs broke and stuff. But I guess he became like a boxer later.
Well, I
But
mean, a
yeah,
different breed of those immigrant Americans that, first generation guys that were over here, so makes sense. Even the
yeah,
kids were dangerous.
right. Yeah, but Maria, because she was right in the path, she probably suffocated pretty quickly. Like she
Yeah.
died. And
Yeah.
Pasquale, I guess he had disappeared because they couldn't find him, but they found him like a week later.
Mm.
And they think it seemed like for him, like he was picked up and like a railway freight car was also picked up and like he hit a wall and then the car hit him. So he probably died pretty fast too. But I guess his dad was watching from their apartment. So he just saw like the wave cover him and he was
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, that had to suck.
Yeah. Um, and then the firefighters for the station 31, like that was so close to the tank as well that got totally destroyed. So
Mm.
then all of them were trapped as well. Like they had to wait to be rescued too, so they couldn't help with the rescue. And I guess they said they had to tread, some of them had to tread water, but in the molasses for like
Fuck.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the firefighters ended up drowning because he couldn't keep his head up any longer because his leg was stuck under debris too, so
Mhm.
he couldn't stay up. And then they said like there was just one small area because the molasses was coming in, but then there was only one small area that was coming out.
Also, just kinda containing itself in this little area.
Yeah, and one of the firefighters actually was close to that opening, so, like, the other ones were like, "Just keep kicking it, like, just keep making it bigger so you can kick it and have this molasses go out and stuff." And I guess some of them were able to pull themselves out from the debris, but yeah, the one ended up drowning, George Leahy, and then 2 others were stuck for, like, a long time. But they were eventually rescued. But there was also a stonecutter, John Barry, who was also in the firehouse, I guess, when it happened, and he got stuck. He said like a boiler was on his back or something.
Shit.
So he was stuck for a long time. And actually during the rescue, like other firefighters that were able to come in from other areas, like they would crawl in and inject him with morphine to help with the pain and then crawl
Yeah.
back out because they could do that or whatever. So they injected him 3 times with morphine just for the pain and everything before they could finally like get him out. So he did survive, but he didn't live a good life after that.
I can't imagine that he did.
No. He was always in pain and stuff. And I guess he's probably like mid-50s or something
Mhm.
when, and then I guess when he got out finally, his hair was all white. Like he looked like a 70-year-old. Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
happened that your hair turns all white, but
I
like
mean,
his daughters didn't even recognize him in the hospital because they
could
were
have
like,
just
"Who is this
been
old man?"
the extreme stress of it, I suppose, maybe,
Yeah,
but
I guess, yeah. So yeah, that wasn't good, but yeah, like once this happened, like the rescuers and stuff had to use axes to like cut the molasses and everything, and they were also trying to use like the fire hydrants like water, but they ended up switching to seawater to like cut through it and stuff.
yeah.
So it took a long time to find people. And they said a lot of the survivors that did like were okay afterwards. They found them like right before the molasses was gonna like cover them and
Oh,
smother them.
shit.
Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of people like died before they could get to them and stuff. And a lot of
Oh, yeah.
horses too.
Yeah, oh, yeah, the
I guess
animal life is gonna say that the industrial side of that, they weren't using a lot of vehicles, they were still using a lot of horse and carriage stuff to
yeah.
move stuff, so
Yeah, I don't think any of the horses survived because once they were stuck, it was kind of like quicksand for them. So they couldn't, and like police officers just ended up shooting them when
I
they
mean,
saw them and stuff.
you're
So
not you have a that those things weigh, so much and trying to get them to do
yeah,
anything, they're gonna be panicking, it'd be more dangerous to them and you to try to save them.
right, yeah. But I guess so cadets from the USS Nantucket were like one of the first people there because they were already at the harbor, like from they were already still there from like World War II or one. Why do I keep saying two? World War One. They were still, like, active kind of or, like, decommissioning, so
Mhm.
they were right there so they could help, and then the, Charlestown Navy Yard was right across the way as well, so they were able to come pretty fast and help, so there were a lot of people helping, but, yeah, it was crazy. I guess 150 people were injured and 21 ended up dying,
I mean,
so
considering the circumstances and the living
yeah.
conditions and the density of the population, that's not nearly as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
Right. Yeah, I thought it would be more
I thought the
for
death
sure.
was gonna be, like, definitely in the hundreds for sure,
Right.
but
Yeah, I guess they did say, like, if it had been, like, summer when school was out, because there was a park right there that got covered, so then it would have been way worse, but since it was, like, winter and school was still in and stuff.
well, and I can assume too, even with an extremely warm day of 40 degrees, like, molasses is still pretty thick, and if it was summer, it might have flown a lot quicker.
Yeah, it might not have been as tall of a wave too
Yeah,
and stuff,
but you would
but
have
yeah,
had, like, a wider
would've
dispersion of it, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
right. Yeah, I would've gone farther for sure. Do you wanna see a picture of the destruction?
Yeah, dude, I wanna see that.
Last picture. It'll be on our YouTube or Facebook
Yeah,
if you
it'll be
wanna look at it, but
holy shit. It looks
yeah,
it looks like a fucking bomb went off. That's 100%
yeah,
what that looked like. Like,
right.
that's insane.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe the tank was there. I'm not sure if the tank was in the picture where it stood, 'cause when it happened, like, the cover of the tank was still there, like, right
Like,
where
it
the
just
tank
sank
was.
down. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
But I don't think that's in this picture, but yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so I guess it took a week to clear out most of the debris, like round the clock. Like they brought in lights and stuff and worked like 24/7 basically to clear out everything. So it did take a week. And then obviously people blamed USIA for this. And the company tried to blame anarchists, saying that it was blown up.
Of course that they did. It's not our
Yeah,
negligence.
right. I mean, were the other anarchist stuff, I guess. So it's
Well, I
not
mean, it's not
a bad theory, but
improbable, but
right. With what we know now, yeah, for sure. I guess just 5 days before this happened, though, there were flyers from anarchists that ended with "We will dynamite you," like in the area, not
I see.
specifically towards the company, but so they did say it was anarchists at first or trying to blame them, but also like you could see all the buildings in the area, and the glass was only broken where the molasses came up.
Yeah, it wasn't
Like,
like an
it wasn't
explosion or a yeah,
concussive, right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess some people say it's a little bit of a mystery how it failed exactly, but
I
I'd say
don't
at
think
this
so.
point, no, it's not.
No,
Yeah.
they had shoddy building and they never fucking fixed or tested any of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but so no criminal charges were issued,
No, of course
like,
not.
by the state. So in 1920, there was a civil case that started to
Okay.
represent all of the people. And I guess, like, all the families or there was 119 lawsuits filed. So they ended up consolidating it into like one class action. So I guess that was the biggest, like one of the first class actions, and definitely the biggest at that time
I think
in Massachusetts.
what I was seeing was it was the biggest first class
I
action
think, yeah,
lawsuit.
right. Yeah, and I guess Colonel Hugh Ogden was the auditor for the case, which I guess he
What a
was just
name.
meant to, yeah. I guess he's kind of famous. At that time, he was a private lawyer, but he had been in the war as like some legal, I don't know
Oh,
what
okay.
he did exactly, but he was stationed like in France for a lot of the war and with they called it the Rainbow Division. I think it was the 42nd maybe.
Mhm.
But he was like, yeah, big on that. But he was just meant to like review all the evidence and kind of write up a recommendation for what he would do. So he's kind of the judge, but he wouldn't like force the company to do it. Like it wasn't like legally they had to do what he recommended or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I guess when they asked him to do that, they said it would only take 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah? Let me guess, it wasn't just 6 weeks
No, they always why do they always say this?
because 'Cause they're
Uh,
stupid.
Yeah, they are stupid. But I guess at that time too, Boston building code applied to like every form and industrial building except for storage tanks. Like there was no building code for that.
That doesn't make any sense, especially when you're holding
Yeah,
millions of gallons of anything. Like,
right.
that's
Well, they
wild.
changed it all now. I mean, that's one
Yeah,
good thing from
yeah.
this, but yeah, there was nothing required at all. Like you didn't have to have an engineer stamped on it or validated or anything for storage tanks. So
Well, that
yeah, during
explains
the
why we
trial,
put 6 weeks or 6 months or I can't e I'm not doing this right.
6 inches?
6 inches of water. I have my measurement of time and actual length all mixed up. That makes
Yeah,
sense. I'm sorry. I'm gonna shut up
right.
and let you talk.
No, you're fine. Yeah, so, just a spoiler alert, the case took till 1925.
Holy
Took
fuck.
5 years. Yeah, but, they had Arthur P. Gell testify or whatever, give him whatever it is, the deposition or whatever they do.
Look, guys, I put 6 inches of water in this thing. I didn't see one leak, all right? So it was
Yeah,
safe.
yeah, basically he did, like, he did not seem like it was a problem. He said he stuck with it, was anarchist, and he said like it was fine. But like he confirmed there were never any engineering or architectures people like whatever architects.
Architectural.
We're not, yeah, we're not talking very well today. But he said the plans were never confirmed with those types of people. And he said he recommended to the steel company like the factor of safety number, even though he has no background in it. And he was just like, yeah, 3 is a good number.
Yeah, that was good. I threw a dart at a wall, and that's what it landed on.
Yeah. And then also, he didn't verify that the plans they drew up matched the factor of safety because he didn't know anything about that.
Yeah,
So
you know,
even if he told them that, he didn't know if the plans actually matched that. And he didn't check the steel that they actually delivered to see if that would
listen,
match. Like, no checking at all.
we're guesstimating on everything, okay? The point of this is I need to get promoted to get to this
Right.
next position. I don't care about anything other than that.
Yeah. So the MIT did a study to see what it was actually constructed with. And they found that all the steel plates for like the 7 rings that made up this tank were 10% thinner than what the plans even called for, because that was during the war too, and they couldn't get steel correct and stuff, so the company was even like scrimping on that. And they also found that the exertion on the tank shouldn't have been more than 18,000 pounds per square inch, like if it was constructed well. But then they found that at the time when it collapsed, it would have exerted a weight of 31,000 pounds per square inch. So, like,
Cool. So,
double.
yeah, double almost what yeah.
Yeah, right. So, obviously, they were found liable, but the whole trial itself was 3 years long, I guess. And then, so that was done in 1923, like late 1923. but then he had to write up, like, read everything, I guess, and write up his special report. So he didn't issue that until April 1925. And I guess the court documents ended up being like 25,000 pages. So he had to go through all of that, I guess.
See, that's the thing. I don't understand with our legal system why that seems so excessive. Like, don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. Like, I'm sure it was very detailed, but like, no one's gonna fucking read all that shit.
I guess he did.
How I
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. And his report was 51 pages long that he ended up
okay.
giving.
See, that's digestible. We could sit and do that.
Right. Yeah, but it basically said obviously the company was liable for the collapse. And he recommended for like damages, it was like $300,000 total, which I guess would be around 30 million today.
Yeah.
So it was like an average of 6,000 to the family estates per like victim, and then 25,000 to the city of Boston for like all the buildings that it destroyed, and then 42,000 to the Boston Elevated Railway Company for the damaged track that they had to replace. And I guess he, for each victim, he kind of had to think, well, even it wasn't just what was, I guess I'm thinking of the deceased, but it was for anyone who had died plus
Injured
people
or
who had,
yeah.
yeah. Right. So he had to determine like pain and suffering for all of that. So some people got more than others, and it was kind of arbitrary to his thoughts or whatever. But the plaintiff's lawyer like really wanted to go to a jury trial to determine the damages because he thought it should be more than that.
Yeah.
But then the company ended up doing a private settlement,
I was about to say
which,
we're not
yeah.
we're not going to trial. We're just paying it out privately.
No, yeah, and they agreed to double what he had recommended, so
Oh,
everyone
okay.
got
Well,
double.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then I was gonna list the 21 victims' names and ages
Okay. Yeah.
to remember them. There's Patrick Breen, who was 44 and a laborer for North End Paving Yard, and then William Brogan, 61. He was a teamster, which is, I guess, the people who, like, drive the horses, like a team of horses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Bridget Clarity, which was 65, like the mother, she was a homemaker. And then Stephen Clarity was 34. And then John Callahan was 43 and a paver for North End Paving Yard. Then Maria DeStacio was 10. Pasquale Ian Tosca was 10. William Duffy was 58 and a laborer. Peter Francis was 64 and a blacksmith. So Gallerani was 37 and a driver. It just said driver, so I don't really know what for, but James Kinnelly was a laborer. Eric Laird was 17 and a teamster. George Lay was the firefighter and he was 38. James Lennon was 64 and a teamster. Ralph Martin was 21 and he was a driver. James McMullen was 46 and he was a foreman for the Bay State Express. Caesar Nicolo was 32. Thomas Noonan was 43 and a longshoreman. Peter Shaughnessy was 18 and a teamster. John Sieberlich was 69 and a blacksmith. And then Michael Sinnott was 76 and a messenger. Pretty big range of ages and stuff. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said earlier, it's surprising that more people weren't killed with the amount of devastation
yeah,
that you saw.
right.
But that's not to say, I mean, we did have a hundred and what, 51 injured on top of that was what you
Yeah,
said? Yeah. So I
right.
mean, I'm sure those injuries varied from very minor to pretty fucking extensive from what we heard too. You
Yeah.
know, with
Yeah, some of
gentlemen.
them were life changing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, like you said, good thing that we learn from our mistakes somewhat, and we actually don't have shoddy ass fucking building codes and, 10%, thinner sheet of steel to house 2 million gallons of anything anymore. But
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of good changes came from it. So, but yeah, crazy.
you weren't
That's
lying.
it. That's all I have. Yeah.
That's a pretty wild one to say the very least. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
And no, I mean, no one really talks about it, I feel like, because why would you? Because it
Well,
seems
I
a
think
little
it's
strange and
I I I I talked to a handful of people I work with about podcasts you and I do, and that's what I told them. I said, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna talk tomorrow about Great Molasses Flood, and they're like, what? And started laughing.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
it's a joke. That's what it sounds like. But no, it's like, no, check it out. And next thing you
Yeah,
know, you start looking into it and you're like, holy fuck, man. But
right. Yeah, just look up pictures of it. It's, like,
yeah.
crazy.
See, that's what I started with. I was on YouTube Shorts, and they had a bunch of people that were doing, pictures of it and doing stuff like that. I'll try to incorporate some into any of the media that we have for this episode, if I can find some aerial shots or something like that. So
Yeah.
awesome.
Crazy.
Well, listeners, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you guys have anything similar to the Great Molasses Flood that doesn't sound real, but that is super freaking awesome, or not awesome, super wild to
Yeah.
talk about,
Investigate.
that's
Yeah.
investigate. Words are hard sometimes to say the wrong thing. Let us know. Shoot us an email at theparanoidperspectivepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to talk about it, and we'll definitely give you a shout out on that episode if you give us something you recommend. But as per usual, check out any of the social media that will be linked down below. Check out the YouTube channel. Check out the Patreon, the Paranoid Perspective Podcast /patreon.com. Got some extra little perks over there. And if you're not interested in Patreon, the easiest and free way is share this podcast with a friend and help us out that way. It goes a lot further than you would think. But as per usual, thank you guys for listening. And as always,
Remember, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not watching. See you next time on The Paranoid Perspective.